Okay, Felicia.
恭敬大德圣地，为其法会济一切众生，听转妙法论，教导我们如何了生脱死离苦得乐，殊胜无争。Will Sangha we virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, return the Dharma will to teach us how to be suffering, attain peace and birth and death, to realize on birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto sucheto ye alahati san miao san puto che. Wu shang shen shen wei miao fa. 百千万劫难遭遇，我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Hello everyone, welcome to class number 27. Today we have, I hope, a good class. I hope it's always good. Because I learned a few new things that I am very embarrassed to say that I never knew before. And this is everyday things that we do in a monastery, and I never knew. And it's all related back to the 11th vow of Medicine Master Buddha. So before we go there, let's recite Medicine Master Buddha's name 7 times, and then I see Ron has a question. We'll make time for that as well. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one. 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 Okay, so let me give you all a preview on what we have for today's class. Just give me a second. I was thinking more about Medicine Master Buddha's vow, the 11th great vow, and I realized that, okay, let me share the screen. Hold on, let me pull this down. We don't need this anymore. Let me share this screen. Okay. So I was looking at Medicine Master Buddha's 11 vow again in more detail. And I realized that when I was reading this, I totally missed sentient beings. And I thought he was talking, I mean, in my mind, I just assume humans, you know. So that made me a bit embarrassed because I realized, how you say, compared to Medicine Master Buddha, he thinks about all living beings, sentient beings. When my mind naturally reduces that only to human beings. So I'm going to put my palms together. We can recite it together. This is the 11th great vow. I vow that in a future life, when I attain Bodhi, I shall cause all sentient beings who are so plagued by hunger and thirst that they create all kinds of bad karma in their quest for food, upon hearing my name and single-mindedly accepting and maintaining it, to be filled with delicious food and drink, and afterward, by means of the flavor of Dharma, to settle in ultimate peace and happiness. So the last few weeks we talked about, I think we spent 2 weeks on food already. And I think this vow coming at this time, especially since we just finished Ulambana, is really significant, because I realized this vow has also includes hungry ghosts, or peta in preta, P-R-E-T-A in Sanskrit, and in Pali it will be P-E-T-A, hungry ghosts, sometimes translated also as shades. And I found a sutta that I never read before, which is quite a few. I've never read quite a lot. I never read before. But this sutra has to do with how offerings, someone asked the Buddha about offerings. And that also made me embarrassed, because we do offerings all the time. Offerings or transference of merit is part of Mahayana practice. But I realized I never really understood that much. It was more a acceptance of what the Buddha said, or what Shufu said, or what we do on a daily basis, without really having the text, the sutras to back up what I understood. Yeah. So today I am very excited, as always, to share what I have with you. Okay, so let me read the chat box and see if it's pertaining to what we're going to cover today. Okay, so Ron says, Fashu, when we chant Medicine Master mantra, is it only efficacious when it is chanted with the true mind? Is it the same as the Great Compassion mantra? And he has a second question. What does turning the wonderful Dharma wheel mean? Where did this notion of the Dharma wheel come from? Okay. And then Julie says, last session on meal offerings, what is the character written on the food? Does a Sangha performing the meal offering uses his right ring finger in writing the character? And Ron says, okay, all right. And okay, Miss Yap, I think she hasn't finished typing her question yet. Okay, we'll keep the questions for the end. How about that? But there's a very quick one to Ron's second question. What does turning the Dharma wheel mean? We are doing it right now, Ron. Every time we speak the Dharma, or we share, like what I'm doing right now, I share my understanding and what I find, my investigations of the Dharma. That's turning the Dharma wheel. And then for the listener, every time you hear something and you reflect on it, you think about it, you are turning your own Dharma wheel. Because by reflecting on your own, by taking the principle from the sutras that is taught to us, and then by applying it to the specifics of your own experience in life, That's how you turn your Dharma wheel and make it into your Dharma and then your wisdom, which is why I encourage people to talk more and to share, because the power of having group wisdom is that we can learn from each other, and we learn how other people apply their own wisdom internally. This is what Shofu means when he say everyone has their own sutra. So when you can apply the principles to the specifics of your own sutra or your own experience in life, then it becomes real. Yeah. Okay, and then so Miss Yap says, what is the difference between spirit, hungry ghost, and spirit afterlife? Okay, we keep that for the end. Hopefully, I will answer you through the slides that we have. Also, I'm very happy to announce that we are testing out Vietnamese translation, and I don't have any how you say, because I'm not doing the work and it's not easy work. I will leave it to the team that's doing the translation. The team is as far as I know right now, is Ko Hong and Dr. Tran. And based on feedback and the number of people who join, they will help decide if it's going to continue. But for now, it's how you say, still in the testing stages. And if anyone is interested in getting the link for the Vietnamese translation, you can, I don't have it, but you can WhatsApp the group. And then once I get it, I can share it on WhatsApp. Or let me see. Okay, I'm not sure if I can share it on WhatsApp. Let me ask the group first how comfortable they feel. Okay, let's continue with. So this is one of the few slides that I have left over from last week. Shufu says there are 4 kinds of eating, 4 ways of eating for sentient beings. So the first one is eating in portions. Shufu say all sentient beings, those possessed of blood, breath, and material form. That means people like us, we have a physical substance to ourselves. So that includes animals, fish, frogs, worms, insects. We eat in portions, and Shofu also says that means different segments of time: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and it says human beings and animals all eat in portions. And if anyone has observed wildlife, sometimes when you go for walks or if you are living by the forest, you see that's true for animals as well. Animals like to eat in the morning when it's nice and cool. In the afternoons when it's hot, they rest, and then in the evenings they eat again. And then number 2 is eating by contact. She says these beings, which include ghosts, which we're going to talk about today, and Ms. Yap's question says, get full just by touching the food. I always thought they smell, because old Chinese Cantonese movies out of Hong Kong, they always show those that have ghosts. They always show the ghosts smelling the food, but apparently Shofu says they just need to touch the food to absorb the essence of the food. And number 3 is eating by thought. Heavenly beings, they just have to think about food and they're full. How convenient is that? When we think about food, we just get hungry, but they think about food, they get full. And then number 4, eating by consciousness. I don't really know how to explain this, but Shofu says they don't even have to think about food. The function of eating takes place in the 8th consciousness. And it says beings in the heaven or the 4 stations of emptiness eat in this way. I think this is what dhyana bliss, having the food of dhyana bliss means. It's not food as how we see it, but they are sustained by the mind being really quiet and really joyful. Yeah. This is one of the things that sometimes I think might be too simple to include, but that's just my own bias, because this is something I've known for a long time. But there's a reason why our class is also called Buddhism 101, so that we can take time to explain from I guess from the foundation all the way up to as deep as we need to go. So in last week's class, we talked about how when we eat, we make offerings. When the verses, one of the verses that we chant is making an offering to what's known as the great golden wing peng bird or Garuda bird. And we also make offerings to the Rakshasa, Ghost Mother. So today I'm going to talk a bit about that, because monks and nuns, we do that on a daily basis, every time when we eat. So what is the golden wing Garuda bird? I find it very interesting that in a lot of myth and legends, there is always the presence of very large birds. For example, the phoenix, and even fiction like Lord of the Rings, they have the great big eagles that come and they're wholesome birds. They're good ones. They come and save the actors in the movie. So this Garuda bird, which is also the logo for Indonesia's national airline, Garuda Airlines, apparently has a wingspan that is close to 5,000 miles wide. And Shufu, this is from Shufu's explanation. Shufu says that the Garuda bird feeds only on dragons. Shufu says, I think the story, the dragons live in the ocean. And because this peng bird, their wingspan is so wide, with one flap of their wings, they just blow all the water out from the oceans, and it exposes all the dragons. And Shufu says they just come, the bird just comes and gobbles them up like noodles. And Shufu says although dragons have spiritual abilities, they can become small, they can become really big, and they can disappear. Shufu says when they see the peng bird coming, they freeze, like they can't do anything, and they can only wait helplessly to be eaten. So what happened was the the Dragon King. The Dragon King saw what was happening, and he realized that sooner or later all the dragons would be eaten up. So he went to the Buddha for help. So the Buddha talked to the peng bird, and the Buddha said, you can't go on eating dragons, poor dragons, you shouldn't be eating dragons at all. And then the peng bird said, well, if I don't eat dragons, then what am I going to eat? I'm going to starve to death. And that's a really good point too. And so the Buddha said, okay, from now on, I tell my disciples every time before they eat, they will make an offering of the food that they receive to you, so that, and then with the mantra that we recite, the food will transform into a manner that the peng bird can eat. So which is why today, every time before we eat, we have that verse. And then we have the Rakshasa Ghost Mother. Okay, so the Rakshasa Ghost Mother, Shufu said, when she came into the world, she fed only on newborn infants, and she never liked to eat anything else. Why? Because apparently, excuse me, I'm going to drink some water. The air in Berkeley is still not very good. So Shufu says, maybe because, babies are tender, savory, sweet, their meat is nutritious and better than any vitamin supplements. For anyone who find this weird, humans do the same thing. We like to eat veal, which is baby cows, and we subject veal to terrible, inhumane conditions so that the meat becomes more tender. We force feed geese or ducks. We force feed ducks so that their liver gets enlarged unnaturally, and people like to eat that. I remember a story my mom told me when I was born. My parents had a party, and someone gave for the party. They brought a suckling pig suckling pigs are roasted pigs, but baby pigs. And I remember my mother saying that when she saw, after having me and seeing that baby pig, the roasted suckling pig, she felt she didn't feel like it was normal. Like maybe this kind of thing shouldn't be done. Yeah, and I have a story for everyone about offerings of sacrifices or offerings of animals. Yeah, right now, you know, as we speak, there are people who like to eat baby rats alive. I've seen a YouTube video. My father had a friend who relied on sheep placenta. I don't think he ate it. I think it was in the form of injections or something. They take the cells, and you can actually tell after he came out of a treatment, he would look younger. His skin would be smoother. He looked younger, and he would go for treatment every, I think, 2 or 3 months. Yeah, I know there is a thing for people who they want to eat the freshest food available, like live octopus, prawns, fish, and all that. Okay. So the story about the ghost mother is that she had given birth to she has like 1,000 sons of her own, and Shufu says that because of her love for eating human babies, the human race was at risk of extinction. Every single baby was in danger of being eaten up by her. So what did the Buddha do? The Buddha kidnapped her younger son. Okay, maybe kidnap is too big of says too much. He hid her younger son in a bowl, and when she couldn't find her son, she realized that the Buddha had taken the son. So the Buddha used it as a way to show her how her love for her own child compared to the love of mothers for all the children that she had eaten. So just like the peng bird, the Buddha made a deal with her, and for her not to eat any more human children, which is from now on, my monks, every time before they eat, they will put out an offering for you. So this is the reason behind the things that we do. An interesting thing about the golden wing Garuda or peng bird is that Shufu says when the bird dies, everything decays just like a normal anyone who has a flesh body. But the only thing that remains is heart. And if the heart is goes to a dragon king, the heart turns into the wish fulfilling pearl. So you all know when dragons are depicted, especially in Asian culture, the dragon is always having a pearl and playing with the pearl. That's the wish fulfilling pearl. And apparently, if there is a wheel turning king means someone who rules over the world, like a supreme ruler. But he rules not through force, but through virtue. That means people recognize the greatness of the person's character, and all countries voluntarily submit to the ruler's rule. So the Buddha was, when he was born, that was his fortune. There was a rishi who told the king, he said, your son can be one of can either be a wheel-turning king or a teacher of gods and humans. So a wheel-turning king also has a wish-fulfilling pull, and it comes from the heart of the Garuda bird. So Shufu says, how about us? How do we get our wish-fulfilling pull? Apparently, we all have that already. Shufu says it's our Buddha nature. We are actually using our pearl all the time. How we function, our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, our consciousness, the fact that we can walk, we can talk, we can think, we can decide things, Shufu says all come because of our wonderful nature. So the only thing is because we are confused and afflicted that we have forgotten that somewhere inside of us is this wish-fulfilling pole. Okay. So now we talk about offerings to the dead. And this is what I wanted to, what I was speaking about. It's called the Janussonin Sutta, named after the person who asked the Buddha this question. So this question is a very common question that everyone asks, which is, can offerings to the dead work? Is there such a thing? So remember a few weeks ago, when we talked about Ulambana, we mentioned that the Taoists, or when people put offerings by the roadside, is about kind of the same principle, which is why if we don't understand, we shouldn't look down on what other people do, because there is some principle. It may not be entirely correct, but there is principle in what other people do as well. Okay, wait, let me see. Ron says, are Garudas, dragons, mythical creatures, or do they really exist? If they really exist, why can't we see them? That's a really good question, Ron. Our senses, okay, first of all, they are not mythical creatures. There's a reason why they're mythical. I guess it's because people could see them before, and the stories come down through, over time they become legends and they become myth. But where do those foundations of myth and legends come from? That's one way of investigating. The second one is looking at our, how you say, the limitations of our abilities or our senses. Dogs can smell better. Dogs and pigs can smell a lot better than we can. Other animals, insects, can see different wavelengths than we do. We see a very, very limited wavelength or spectrum of light. What else? Taste-wise, smell and taste. Yeah, we just talk about smell. So as human beings, our senses are actually really limited. And when later on, when we talk about the hungry ghost, which is part of this sutta that we have in front of us, it said that hungry ghosts are invincible to us, and only if you have your 5 eyes open are you able to see them. Yeah. So rather than asking if things exist, maybe we should ask ourselves, why are my senses so limited? Yeah. Okay. So offerings. Okay. So this sutra, maybe I'll read it so it's easier. We can have everyone on the same page. I'm going to put my palms together. Master Gotama, which is this man addressing the Buddha as Master Gotama. You know that we Brahmins give gifts, make offerings, saying, may this gift accrue to our dead relatives. May our dead relatives partake of this gift. Now, Master Gotama, does that gift accrue to our dead relatives? Do our dead relatives partake of that gift? So it's asking, making offerings to dead relatives, to ancestors. Does that really happen, or is it just a superstition? You know, that's what he's asking. Or it's just a custom that someone told us to do, but is there any benefit? So the Buddha's answer is really interesting. He says, in possible places, Brahman, it accrues to them, but not in impossible places. So his next question is, which are possible places and which are impossible places? Okay. So then the Buddha starts to explain. He says, there is the case, Brahman, where a certain person takes life, takes what is not given, engages in sexual misconduct, basically breaking the 5 precepts. Okay, someone who doesn't follow the 5 precepts. The Buddha says, with the breakup of the body after death, he reappears in hell. He lives there, he remains there by means of whatever is the food of hell beings. The Buddha said, this is an impossible place for the gift to accrue to one staying there. So in the hells, apparently according to this sutra, whatever offerings that you make on behalf of the person, they cannot benefit from it. Okay, after saying that, and after reading this sutra, there are also other sutras that do give a different view. So don't take this to be like the only rule, okay? But we're going with this sutra right now, okay? Because there are a lot of things we don't really know, we don't really understand. So to hold on to one and say, oh, it has to be like this because in this sutra the Buddha said this, becomes a how you say? It becomes a wrong view because you become attached to a view. All right. So keep an open mind as we go through this. Okay. Then the Buddha says, then there is the case where a person takes life, takes what is not given. Again, this paragraph is exactly the same. This person goes against the 5 precepts. So the Buddha says, with the breakup of the body, he reappears in the animal womb. So you're reborn as an animal. Buddha says, this too is an impossible place for the gift to accrue to one staying there. Which kind of makes sense because, you know, an animal you don't have animals suddenly having food appear in front of them out of thin air, like magic. That doesn't happen. And then the Buddha goes on to say, now this is different. It says a case where a certain person refrains from taking life, refrains. So this person follows the 5 precepts. Okay. So because he follows the 5 precepts, the Buddha says this person after death, he reappears in the company of human beings. You are reborn as a human. So the Buddha says, this too is an impossible place for the gift to accrue to one staying there. So none of us has ever had food magically, you know, other than maybe your mother cooking for you or someone, your wife, or you cook for yourself, or your husband cook for you. We don't have food appearing in front of us from thin air. This is why. Okay. All right. Then the Buddha goes on to explain the next impossible place. Again, the first paragraph, the Buddha talks about someone who maintains the 5 precepts, but this time, this person gets reborn in the heavens. It says he reappears in the company of devas, means heaven. Buddha said, this too is an impossible place for the gift to accrue to one staying there. Okay, so hell, animal, human, gods, impossible so far. Okay, and then in this scenario, the Buddha says where a person takes life, takes what is not given. Okay, so this is someone who does not maintain the 5 precepts. And then the Buddha said, with the breakup of the body after death, he reappears in the realms of the hungry shades. What are hungry shades? Hungry ghosts. Okay, this is another name for hungry ghosts. So the Buddha says he lives there, he remains there by means of whatever is the food of hungry ghosts. He lives there, he remains there by means of whatever his friends or relatives give in dedication to him. And this is the possible place for the gift to accrue to one staying there. Okay, so the Buddha says everywhere else, they cannot get the gift. But in this, if they are reborn as a hungry ghost, then yes, they will receive your offerings. Whatever offerings you make, when you dedicate to them, they can receive. Okay. Now, this person, Janussonin, seems to be a very practical person. He says, he asked the Buddha again, he says, if that dead relative does not appear in that possible place, who partakes of that gift? Okay, say if you know for a fact your parents have been reborn in the heavens and your grandparents have been reborn in the heavens, okay, then you say, should you continue making offerings to your ancestors? Basically, that's this question. And then the Buddha said, other dead relatives, Brahman, who have reappeared in that possible place. So the Buddha said, well, if it's not those relatives that you thought of, there will be other relatives who are there. So the Brahman, pushes the point. He says, but Master Gautama, if that dead relative does not reappear in that possible place, and other dead relatives have not reappeared in that possible place, then who partakes of that gift? So if you are sure that all the relatives that you can think of, because you are sure that they maintain the 5 precepts and they were really good people, very generous, you say, if I continue doing this, who's going to get the benefits of the gift? Okay. The Buddha's reply is, it is impossible, Brahman. Says it cannot be that over this long time, that possible place does not have any of your dead relatives. Meaning, the Buddha said, you will definitely have at least one dead relative that's being reborn as a hungry ghost. So then the Buddha said, even yes or no, you as the donor, you will not go without reward. Okay, so when we talk about relatives, officially, the Vinaya, meaning the precepts or the code of conduct in Buddhism, it defines 7 generations past your grandparents. So after your grandparents, you go back 7 generations. Those are you can consider those your dead relatives. So because we have accrued so many, we have so many relatives from so many generations, 7 generations past your grandparents, there is no way that, given human nature, that we don't have a relative who is really, really suffering right now. Okay. So I don't really understand this question that Janussonin asked the Buddha. He said, does Master Gautama describe any preparation for the impossible places? I think it is, actually on second thought, I think he's asking, how do you make these offerings? Yeah, but I don't know why it says impossible places. It should be possible places. Anyway, we can investigate that because we have the answer. Okay, the Buddha says, there is the case where a certain person takes life, has wrong views, okay, and you see the 3 dots after takes life. That's what is called ellipsis, where the whole thing about breaking the precepts, it gets shortened. So between takes life and wrong views, this person has broken the 5 precepts. Then the Buddha says, but at the same time, this person has done a lot of blessings. He gives food, he gives drink, he gives clothing, vehicles, garlands, scents, everything that a monk would need, a monk and a nun would need, to Brahmins and contemplatives. So it says, with the breakout of the body after death, this person will appear in a company of elephants. And there he receives food, drink, flowers, and various ornaments. So it's kind of a mixed karma. Because he has done blessings, he gets those blessings in return. But because his conduct is against the precepts, he gets reborn as an elephant. So Buddha says, because he took life, but because he did blessings, that he has this mixed blessing now. Okay, so that's very interesting. And then the Buddha says, in this other scenario, again, this person goes against the 5 precepts. But at the same time, it's the same scenario. He also provides food, lamps, you could say the 4 requisites of shelter, food, medicine, and clothing. Shelter, food, medicine, and clothing to Brahmins and contemplatives. Contemplatives meaning monks and nuns. And then now, after dying, this person is reborn as animals, in horses, cattle, in the company of poultry. Poultry would be like chickens, peacocks. And then there he says, there he receives food, drink, flowers, and ornaments. So when it comes to ornaments, it does not literally mean like you have, it's not like what we think of ornaments, like earrings and all that. If you look at birds, some birds have very beautiful feathers, like peacocks, if you've been to the city of 10,000 Buddhas. Those are considered ornaments as well. That means looking nice. Yeah. And then the Buddha says, this is a different scenario now. The Buddha says there is the case where a certain person refrains from taking life, refrains. So it goes on, meaning this person does not, this person follows the 5 precepts. And, not covetous, meaning not jealous, doesn't want things that they don't have, doesn't have ill will, has right views. And this person also provides the 4 requisites to Brahmins and contemplatives. Okay. Buddha says, for such a person, with the breakup of the body, he reappears in the company of human beings. So just like all of us right now, as humans, we experience, he says, the 5 strings of human sensuality. What are they? Sight, sound, smells, taste, and feeling. Some of you are sitting on probably very comfortable chairs right now, and some of you might be lounging, lying back, being your feet on the table, being really comfortable, something like that. So the Buddha continues to say why, because he followed the precepts and he created a lot of blessings. And then he goes on to say, again, the same person does not, this person follows the 5 precepts. He also performs a lot of blessings. And then now this person is reborn in the Devas, as in the heavenly realms. And it's because of his blessings and because he followed the precepts that he's reborn in the heavenly realms. Okay. And then the Janussonin, he says, this is what he says actually very significant. He says, it's amazing, Master Gautama, it's astounding how it's enough to make one want to give a gift, enough to make one want to make an offering, where the donor does not go without reward. So meaning, every time you give a reward, you also get the blessing. And every time you can, perform an offering in honor of your relatives, at least one of them is going to benefit. So that also made me kind of ashamed, because I never really, my mind doesn't go there. Yeah, it kind of stops at my parents, and then grandparents also, not really. Like I hardly think about my grandfathers because I've never met them before. And then, when you talk about 7 generations past your grandparents, yeah. And I'll tell you why I'm embarrassed, because in the next few slides, we talk about how difficult life is for a hungry ghost and what it takes. What are the conditions that it takes for your offering to be able to be fruitful to them? And I think we're going to run out of time before I can finish. But it ties back. The reason I'm going through all this is because it ties back and it makes Medicine Master Buddha's 11 Vows more understandable. Is that the right way to say it? Let me see. Yeah, it gives more depth, more meaning to Medicine Master Buddha's 11 Vows. And I'll break it down when we finish all these slides. So this is a sutta called Tirokuda Kanda, meaning hungry shades, hungry ghosts outside the walls. Okay, and this is how it goes. It says, outside the walls they stand, and at crossroads, the hungry ghosts. At doorposts they stand, returning to their old homes. And like Ron's question, we can't see them. Our relatives try to return home, we don't see them. It says, but when a meal with plentiful food and drink is served, no one remembers them. Such is the karma of living beings. So when we have food to eat, we never ever think about our relatives who have no food and drink to eat. Hungry ghosts. So the next verse goes, thus those who feel sympathy for their dead relatives give timely donations of proper food and drink, exquisite, clean, and thinking. May this be for our relatives. May our relatives be happy. And those who have gathered there, the assembled shades of the relatives, shades meaning the ghosts, with appreciation give their blessing for the plentiful food and drink. And they say, may our relatives live long, because of whom we have gained. Because of whom we have gained this gift. We have been honored, and the donors are not without reward. And the Buddha says, for there in their realm, the realm of hungry ghosts, there's no farming, no herding of cattle, no commerce, no trading with money. They live on what is given here, hungry shades whose time here is done. So there is no way they can get food. And the only way they can get food is if their relatives remember them and make offerings. So the Buddha continues saying, as water raining on a hill flows down to the valley, even so does what is given here benefit the dead. As rivers full of water fill the oceans full, even so what is given here benefit the dead. Okay. He gave to me, she acted on my behalf. They were my relatives, companions, friends. Offering should be given for the dead when one reflects thus on things done in the past. For no weeping, no sorrowing, no other lamentation benefits the dead, whose relatives persist in that way. But when this offering is given, well placed in the Sangha, it works for their long-term benefit and they profit immediately. Has anyone seen the movie Coco? If not, it's highly recommended, and it brings to life. It gives you a different scope, a different meaning to what we just read. Because in I think it's called the Day of the Dead, that Mexican festival where you remember or honor the dead, and you make offerings to them. And in Coco, when if you forget about your relatives who have passed on, they disappear. Yeah, and the relatives are really afraid of that their living relatives will forget about them. Yeah. Okay. Actually, it's not finished yet. So this is the last slide. The Buddha says, in this way, the proper duty to relatives has been shown. Great honor has been done to the dead, and monks have been given strength. The merit you acquired isn't small. So if anyone wants to look this up, you can type into Google KHP number 7 or PV 1.5. Yeah. Okay, let me see. All right, let's go on. Okay, maybe I will keep this slide for next week. This is about making animal offerings, which is happening a lot. If you go to All Souls Day, Qingming, where people go to their ancestors' graveyards, you still find people offering meat and fish and all that. So I'll keep this for next week. And what I'll do is, where's my notes? My notes. Okay, I have more to talk about hungry ghosts. Maybe before I do that, let's look at the questions again. Okay, Ron, your question about okay, Tom, Miss Yap, about spirit, hungry ghosts, and spirit afterlife. It sometimes these terms are used interchangeably. Sometimes they're not. So like hungry ghosts, depending on the context, sometimes people just use them to cover a wide range. But in Buddhist cosmology, hungry ghost is a specific realm where you are born into, where you have no food to eat. It's considered one of the undesirable realms, and it's they are there are many shapes and sizes and different sufferings as a hungry ghost. So I guess it's just like when you call someone a human being, you know, we come in all kinds of colors, shapes, sizes, and you know, cultures and beliefs. Same too when you say hungry ghost. And then spirits, again, it depends on the context. So you have to look at what's been spoken and how the terms are being used, especially given translations. Sometimes people tend to translate one word differently from another when it's done into English. So don't take ghost as a very narrow term. You have to look at how it's being explained. So Julie's question, what is a character written on the food? I think it's the character. I can write the character, but I can't remember what it's called. If you look at our recitation handbook, it tells you the name of character. I don't know what the character means. Yeah. And right ring finger, I don't know which is the right ring finger. Yeah. Yeah. I think maybe what finger you use may not really make a difference. It's the contemplation that you use when you make the offerings. Let me see what other, I saw some more questions. Is precept for the deceased ceremony considered a gift? Wen says yes. Yes, the precepts for the deceased. Precepts for the deceased, there are many stories about how people have either dreams or encounters where their relatives are really, really grateful. I would imagine it as if you are in a place where you really need help, like the hungry ghost, you would really, really want your relatives, your children, great-grandchildren, you know, and great-great-great-grandchildren to be able to recall you in mind. So I remember Ron had a question before about ancestral plaques, like in the home and all that. I guess this is where it comes from. At that time, I didn't know so much about this, so I couldn't give you a very satisfactory answer. But now I think you can see how important ancestral plagues are, or at least teaching our families about where we come from, about the hardships of our parents, great-grandparents, and so on, and yeah, all the things that they have had to go through. Okay, and then Catherine asks, is Ulambana the only time to offer hungry ghosts? No, because we ran out of time. I have a lot more about hungry ghosts, which I think is really important, given that the Buddha said there is no way none of us has no dead relatives who are reborn as hungry ghosts. So I think it's really important every time when you make an offering to the triple jewel, for example, or when you do something wholesome, to be able to include them in as you give the offerings. Because I have really good stories. Sorry, you won't get to hear them this week, but I have really good stories about how these people make an offering and instantly their relatives actually get the benefits of the offerings. Yeah, and then a sneak preview is that they become fat and very happy. So if you look back at the 11 Vow that we just read in the beginning of today's class, how Medicine Master Buddha makes them happy first and then turns them towards the Dharma. So it goes in the stories about how they get the food and the clothes, and they become the hungry ghosts become really happy. So Van says, okay, her reply yes was about Coco the movie. Yeah, so watch Coco the movie again and look at see if you can make any connections, and then next week we will go more into this. And Catherine says, since only to one parent so we leave the other from receiving, the deceased parent from receiving the deceased precepts. Well, kind of, yeah, that's the way it goes, because when you receive the precepts for the deceased on behalf of someone, you want to be really single-minded. I guess that's why we can only receive on one relative at a time. But not to worry, because now that you know that when you make an offering and you dedicate the merit to your ancestors, they will receive the benefits. Don't miss any opportunity. The Buddha told the monks, he said, if only you understood the importance of giving. And when the Buddha says importance of giving, it's not like when we think about giving in its limited form. It also includes in your mind the transference of merit to your family members, who some of you who like myself have never met before. So the Buddha said, if only you understood the importance of giving, you would never partake of any food without offering it first. Because of what we just read, the amount of benefit, not just for yourself, but for all your relatives who might need help right now. So if you have an altar at home or an image of the Buddha, and you make offerings, like before you eat lunch or breakfast or dinner, you provide the Buddha an offering, or you buy fruits, you can use all those are opportunities for you to recollect your ancestors and include them in your transference. Yeah. Okay. So next week, I was really hoping to go through more of the Hungry Ghost today, but next week we will have more time, and I think this is something that's worth doing slowly and doing well, so that you have a full understanding of offerings for the deceased. Yeah, I've been a monk for so long, and I still didn't know until I started reading more. That's why I say I'm fairly embarrassed. Okay. Any more questions, anyone? Oh, yes, Ron's question about the mantra. I was going to talk about mantras a bit when we get to the mantra part of Medicine Master Buddha, but to answer your question, Ron, is it only efficacious when you chant with the true mind? I think I've heard Shufu say before, you need to be sincere. But sincere? Sincere means that you are, sincere shows in your mind. As if you are sincere, your mind is not going to be running. As you are chanting, say the mantra, you're not thinking about lunch, you're not thinking about how tired you are, or even if you are tired, it doesn't bother you. You're not, how you say, having to force yourself and say, oh, I'm so tired, but yet I still have to recite the mantra. You don't have thoughts like that. So you have the right mindset, and the right mindset results in a concentrated mind. Yes, that would be very helpful, but not everyone is able to do that, especially when you are starting off. Some people take a few years. Some people, it depends on your state of mind as you are reciting. For example, if you just got off and if you just had an argument with someone and you try to recite the mantra, it might not be that easy. So what you want to aim for is, yes, a concentrated mind, but sometimes it takes a bit of time to get there. And is it the same as the Great Compassion Mantra? Well, those are two different mantras, I would say, and they are used differently. I don't know if you can say they're the same, but I also don't know if you can say that they're different. You know, I think it depends on the intention that you use, and also your affinities. Some people they prefer the Great Compassion Mantra, they feel closer. Some people feel closer to Medicine Master Buddha's mantra. I have always recited the Great Compassion Mantra, but ever since the this pandemic began, and I started revisiting Medicine Master Buddha's Sutra and using his mantra. Now I feel more comfortable using the Medicine Master Buddha mantra instead. So it all depends on how you feel. Yeah. All right. Okay. Let me see. Have I missed any more questions? No. Okay. Then it is time to pause for today and dedicate merit. Okay. And keep you guys waiting for next week, because next week we have really interesting stories about how making offerings benefit our relatives who have been born as hungry ghosts. Okay, I hope not, but if they are, then as the Buddha says, then yeah. Catherine asks, any difference between chanting Medicine Master Buddha's name and his mantra? I honestly don't know. I have to read the sutra again. Let me see about the mantra. Yeah. Okay, let me answer your question this way, Catherine. When it comes to Pure Land practice, and for people wanting to be reborn in Amitabha's Western Pure Land of ultimate bliss, some people really believe that you have to only recite the Buddha's name. But in many sutras, they provide different ways, all that get you to be reborn in a Pure Land. You can recite the Great Compassion Mantra, you can recite Guanin's name, you can recite Amitabha Buddha's name. What else? I know there's a few, like the taking Samantabhadra Bodhisattva's 10 conducts and vows as your daily practice, and dedicating that to the Pure Land, meaning the reason you're doing that is to be reborn in the Pure Land. That takes you there as well. So there are many ways, and I think to say to choose one that you're comfortable with, and try that. Yeah, it depends on your heart and your intention that you use before the practice. Okay. All right. Dedication of merit. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see how hands and hearts can find in giving unity, may their minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of their endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Okay, end of lecture. I just have an interesting thing that came to my mind. In Asian culture, especially the Chinese, I'm not sure. I only know about the Chinese. I don't know about the others. We have clans. Like my family is the Yap clan, or the Ye. In Mandarin, we'll pronounce it Ye. The Ye clan. And if you are a prosperous clan, you would have like a hall, where you have all your ancestors' names there. So in northern Malaysia, in Penang, we have what's known as the Ku Kongsi. That means the Ku clan, who are very famous. They have a lot of prominent family members, and it's become a tourist attraction you can go there. I've been there. You go there. There are halls, and they have the names of all the ancestors, including names up to the names of current generation, and they put out the names there, and they also go to the extent of putting up like who graduated from there, from which university and all that, and who's a doctor and their profession. Yeah, I was just thinking it would be nice. I don't know how am I going to find out, like for myself, to find out at least the names of my ancestors, and be able to have them in mind, at least the name, if not the face, and include them in the offerings as well. Yeah.
Fasil, can I
Yes.
share something?
Yes.
If
Miss
you
Yap.
go to the Yap Association, they have the link to go back to China, one of the district for those with surname of Yap, and you can locate your ancestor from there's sort of something like a association house for all the one with the same surname, their ancestors, and the records of the line of the ancestor.
Yeah, but for that you have to know. Maybe I can ask my elder brother to help out, or my cousins or uncles. Yeah.
Yeah. It calls Xuan Gen.
Okay.
That means you find your roots.
Yeah. After doing the research for today's lecture, I have a greater appreciation of ancestral plaques at home, and I never knew the significance from a Buddhist perspective of how important it is for you, for a person to be able to remember or recall their ancestors. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Miss Yap. Yes. Yes. Oh, I thought someone had something to say. Okay. So end of lecture and end of the class, and we'll see everyone next week. If anyone has some stories about ancestors or things they want to share, please do next week. People have been very quiet in class. I really wish people would be more, had more things to say. Okay. All right. See everyone next week. Amitabha and bye-bye. Oh, cannot end class. Oh, it keeps on disappearing.